but you are truly doing the other person a disservice when you harbor these feelings of anger or frustration against them and don't give them the opportunity to have a conversation with you about it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Balanced Business Coach. My name is Tony Robinson. I am a life coach for leaders and a burnout prevention specialist. I help individuals and teams create more balance within their personal and professional lives so that they can create a bigger and better impact on the places that they serve. Last week I put out an episode about politics in the workplace and how having that kind of conversation in the workplace can cause a lot of friction, divisiveness, and burnout. A lot of the conversation was talking about how you can set your own boundaries, how you can redirect the conversation, how to communicate with people when they are having these conversations around you or with you. But it brought up this really important topic about feedback and how difficult it is for us to give other people feedback. For some people, it comes very easily, but for others, it's a really big struggle to have a conversation with another human being about the things that you're feeling about them. So today, I really want to talk about why it's so important to give feedback, how that is going to help prevent your burnout or overcome burnout, and also how to give it, whether it's positive feedback or negative feedback, and how to receive it. So if that sounds interesting to you, I hope that you'll stick around. This is going to be a really beneficial episode if you struggle with having those hard conversations with other people. So with all of that being said, let's get into it. So I want to start this conversation off with why you would want to give someone feedback in the workplace anyway. Whether it's talking about politics in the workplace and it's making you uncomfortable, or someone oversharing their personal life, or maybe it's something that was done to a client, or you overheard someone treating a client poorly or differently than you would have treated them, and it triggered, some frustration or concern. Or maybe it's just general unprofessionalism. Maybe someone is dressing not up to dress code, or maybe someone is speaking in a way that is too casual in emails. Whatever the case is, there's plenty of reasons why we would need to give someone feedback in the workplace. And the thing that I realized when I was putting out the podcast about talking about politics was that we rely way too much on managers or HR to handle our problems for us. And sometimes there's things that people do in the workplace that bother us that we need to stop being so afraid to just tackle the situation head on. There is a category of issues that may not be appropriate for you to address or may need to be done by that person's manager or HR if it's something like harassment or something totally against company policy. But if it's things that you notice that are maybe just a little bit unprofessional or are some way offensive to you personally, I think it's actually more beneficial for you to have the conversation with that person directly. You never know how things are going to get misconstrued when you're relaying information to someone and then they're relaying the information to that person, if it's going to get relayed to that person at all, and how it's going to be delivered. You have no control over that when you are not the one in the driver's seat of relaying the information and the feedback that you want to give that person. So this episode is really intended to help you boost your confidence in giving other people feedback, positive or negative, when it's deserved, because the key here is making sure that you're not allowing things to build up, you're not letting things linger, you're not, holding on to this anger towards a person or frustration, that you're able to start to just be a normal adult and have a conversation with another adult about something that is bothering you. We spend so much time with our coworkers. We should be able to have these conversations just like we would have with a spouse, just like we would have with a parent, just like we would have with a child, just like we would have with a friend. And maybe you struggle in those areas too. In that case, this will be very beneficial to all of your relationships. But you are truly doing the other person a disservice when you harbor these feelings of anger or frustration against them and don't give them the opportunity to have a conversation with you about it. If something is really bothering you and it's starting to build up and you're taking that frustration home with you and it's affecting other areas of your life, it's not fair for you to be angry with that person if you haven't addressed it with them, if you haven't given them the opportunity to fix it, correct it, make it up to you. But not only are you doing the other person a disservice if you aren't having a conversation with them and giving them feedback, but you're also doing yourself a disservice. When we get burned out, it is so much more about our own feelings, about the environment, the workload, the people, than it is the actual reality of the situation. It's about our perception. And so if we don't allow ourselves to have a conversation about how we're perceiving things or how things are feeling for us, then people could be totally misunderstanding where you're at or what you're going through. They could have no idea that they upset you. They could have no idea that this workload is too overwhelming. They could have no idea how you are being impacted by their actions or inactions, whatever the case may be. And you can be upset by that. You can say, well, they should know, or how ignorant of them not to know. How could they not know? But where is the productivity in that? Where is the benefit in you continuing to blame and harbor feelings of anger? That's not doing anything for you. You are doing yourself a disservice by just continuing to build upon the feelings of frustration and anger. You have to give the feedback. You have to get your feelings and your thoughts and your frustrations out. Another part of burnout is feeling misunderstood, feeling underappreciated, or feeling unrecognized for the efforts and the things that you have been putting so much energy into. And I was actually reading a recent study done by Gallup, and they put out some stats about how giving praise and giving feedback, positive feedback, can actually increase productivity. It can decrease the number of safety related incidents, and it can decrease your levels of absenteeism. It saved organizations millions and millions of dollars just by giving positive feedback to employees. And the reason I bring this up is because if you are someone who is not receiving praise, or you're feeling underappreciated, you're feeling unrecognized, that is something that is going to cause you to be less productive. You're going to be absent more. You're going to feel feelings of resentment that you can't take a vacation or go on a trip and, decompress because you're so overwhelmed with what's going on. At the end of the day, it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to giving feedback. And so if something as simple as positive praise and positive feedback can increase productivity levels and decrease absenteeism and significantly decrease the level of safety related incidents in certain industries, then I think it's something to take pretty seriously, that we need to be giving people feedback no matter what the situation is, all the time, positive or negative, when it is deserved, and not allowing those things to build up. Like I said earlier, feeling heard really matters, and reciprocation matters. So as much as you want to feel heard and feel understood, so do other people. So give them that opportunity by addressing the things that you are feeling, and giving them the opportunity to address things back with you and have that open communication and conversation. It might actually build a huge level of trust and create a stronger work relationship. As afraid of communication as we are as humans, it's incredible how beneficial communication is and how much we feel better when we just have the conversation. So, hopefully, after this, you will feel more confident and more prepared to have these hard conversations with the people in your organization or in your personal life that are going to make a huge positive change in your relationships. So, before you even meet with the person and start to give them feedback, there's a few things that you want to do. The first thing is to always be trustworthy. This is going to give you so much more credibility, so much more respect when you are trying to have this conversation with another person. If you are a trustworthy person, they're going to trust that your intentions going into this conversation are for the benefit of everyone involved and that it isn't just some like self-serving purpose. The second thing you want to address before you go into the conversation is your purpose for doing this. You want to make sure that your mindset is in the right place. If you're coming at this from a place of retaliation or wanting to make them upset or feel bad or understand the way you feel by making them feel that way too, that is really not a good way to approach the conversation, and it's not going to give you the results that you really want to get. So make sure that when you're going into this, you are purposely focusing on the results of the situation, not the problem. When you go into the conversation, you don't need to be rehashing and talking about all of the things that they've done wrong. You can use them as examples, but it's not something to dwell on. You don't want to stay in the problem for too long. Talk about, when you did this at this time, this really upset me. I think going forward, we should do X, Y, and Z. That is going to be a much more productive conversation in the long run. So just make sure that when you are considering giving someone feedback, that your purpose for the conversation is to get results, not just to make them feel bad or harp on a problem. The third thing that you need to address before you go into the conversation is to question your intention. How do you know what you know? Did you witness it? Did you hear about it? Is it firsthand experience, like it happened to you? How do you know what you know? How do you have the information that you have about this person? Just ask yourself that question. And then you want to ask yourself, what are my assumptions about this situation or about this person? Am I assuming the worst of them? Or am I open-minded to other possibilities about what they might be thinking or how they might be perceiving the situation? And are you able to be a little bit objective when you have the conversation with them and open-minded to the fact that your perspective and your opinion on the situation may not be the only one or the right one? And then are there any reasonable explanations for this behavior or for the result? Doesn't necessarily excuse the behavior, but are there any reasonable explanations that could explain it? Knowing these things or preparing for these things before you go into the conversation is going to allow you to go into the conversation at more of a bird's eye view, seeing the situation from all sides rather than just coming in feeling upset, angry, frustrated from your own perspective, being emotional about it and making no sense or upsetting the other person, offending the other person, making them defensive and getting nowhere with the conversation. That is when things start to go poorly when we communicate with other people. So making sure that you have considered all possibilities before you go in is going to give you the opportunity to really see it from a different viewpoint. Once you're ready to have the conversation with the person, if it's constructive feedback, you definitely want to meet privately. If it's positive feedback, it kind of depends on the person. Sometimes people don't like receiving public recognition. It just doesn't make them feel comfortable. So you want to know the person before you just start giving feedback willy-nilly, even if it's positive in front of others. But it's always good to go up to the person one-on-one and say, I have some feedback I would like to share with you. Do you have a moment? Once you have given that information, once you've asked that question, they are probably going to make time pretty quickly to have that conversation with you. People hate not knowing what is going on. They want to know immediately if you're mad at them, what they did wrong. So they're probably going to make a pretty quick adjustment to their schedule to have a conversation with you. But you giving them that opportunity to be available to hear the feedback is going to give their minds a moment to process that you are about to share something maybe vulnerable or maybe something that is difficult with them. That allows them to prepare themselves mentally and emotionally for the conversation that's about to happen. So you giving them that courtesy is already building the trust within the conversation. The next thing is that when you guys do meet, you want to reinforce your intentions and your mindset going into the conversation. This could sound something like, I really value my work relationship with you. I think that we have an opportunity to become stronger and build more trust by having this conversation, but I wanted to address with you an issue that's been bothering me. That lets them know I'm here for building this relationship, not to tear it down. That is going to allow them to drop their walls because they know that you're there to have a two-way conversation and not just like ram them with a bunch of insults and you did this, pointing the finger, that kind of stuff. The next stage of the conversation is going to be explaining the situation. So explain when it happened, where it happened, and then what happened from your perspective. Again, try and be as general, high level as possible. Not to say that you can't give details, but try not to be so accusatory or opinionated about the situation as a whole. Just try to keep it very factual. That is really going to help the direction of the conversation to stay on track. So this could be something that sounds like, Billy, in our call this morning, when you started talking about politics, it really made me feel uncomfortable. You described the when this morning, you described the where on our call, and you described the what talking about politics. The next part of this conversation is describing the impact. So you saying it made me feel uncomfortable describes the impact. A few other things that may really drive the point home are when you talk about politics at work, it starts to create a divide and a breakdown in our team's dynamics. I think it would be better if we left politics out of our team conversations so that we can continue to focus on the task at hand and be a very strong, reliable, focused team.
Talking politics at work is just one example of a reason someone could receive feedback, but you can apply the same framework to any issue.
If you have an example of a time when the team was kind of broken down or when that divisiveness was created or other moments where you've seen that impact, then you can bring those up just to make your point. And then give the person the opportunity to share their thoughts. Say, what do you think about that? And then they can say whether they agree or disagree. At that point in time, once they have shared theirs, you would thank them for the conversation, thank them for their honesty, and say something like, I really appreciate you hearing me out today and hearing my perspective. Hopefully, we can continue to improve on this together. And leave it at that. Let the conversation end there, especially if the person is starting to get defensive or disagreeing with you. There's no point in continuing to have a back and forth. There just isn't. And then if you are wanting to give someone positive feedback, the formation of the conversation is fairly similar. So just make sure that you're being trustworthy all the time so that people don't see it as like scammy, kind of like, what do they want from me kind of conversation. If you are a trustworthy person, they're going to trust that you have positive intentions when you are giving positive feedback. You want to determine your purpose. What is my reason for giving them this feedback? Do I just want to give praise for the sake of giving praise? Is there something I want out of this? And if that's the case, is this the right way to get what I want? Is this being manipulative? So just be aware of your intentions going into that positive feedback conversation. And then you can meet privately, or if they appreciate public recognition, absolutely feel free to give them that public recognition that makes them feel good, and reinforce your intentions, reinforce the mindset, reinforce the values of the company and how they are contributing to that, how they are benefiting the organizations, the teams, the clients that work with you. And you do that by, again, getting specific. Describe the when, the what, the where. Let them know what the situation was, and then describe the impact that made. Did it make an impact on the organization as a whole? Did it make an impact on a particular individual? Did it make an impact on the clients? How did that impact? And then express your appreciation. Thank them for being an outstanding employee. Thank them for being an outstanding coworker. Thank them for being an outstanding manager. This doesn't have to be I'm always giving people who are below me on the hierarchy feedback, or I'm always giving people on the same level as me feedback. No, like feedback is a human thing. It's not a hierarchical thing. Whatever. You can give feedback to your manager. You can give feedback to your coworker. You can give feedback to someone in another department. You can give feedback to someone who has a lower position than you. It does not matter, because you are just simply sharing your perspective. You're sharing your thoughts, your opinion, and you're doing it in a respectful way, which is the key here. When you follow this formula, this step by step, you're going to have success in these conversations, because the intention is clear, the respect is there, the trust is being built, you're being very clear and direct, you're not coming at it from an emotional or a retaliation perspective, and they are going to appreciate that. It's going to help the conversation go so much more smoothly. And then bringing it all the way back to the beginning, you are going to feel better. You're going to feel relieved. They are going to feel relieved. They're going to feel probably heard, or they're going to understand you more. You're going to have a stronger relationship, and you're going to feel better about coming to work and working with these people. You're not going to feel that resentment, that anger, that frustration. Burnout is not going to build up because you've allowed yourself to say how you feel, and those situations or relationships are able to improve after you have given them that opportunity to make a change. All right, everyone, that is all for today. I hope this was helpful for you. I have a free download for you in the comments. It is a free download that gives you a kind of cheat sheet for how to give positive feedback, how to give negative feedback, and hopefully this is something that you can print off and share with your coworkers, share with your friends, your family, whoever needs it. Share it with them so that they can also build their confidence around not only giving feedback, but also receiving it. Both are a skill and anyone can learn it. So sharing this information with other people is not only going to benefit you, but also them. Please let me know if you need further assistance. I also do one-on-one sessions. There is a link down below to book your first complimentary one-on-one session with me. So if you are needing more one-on-one, strategic, personalized coaching, that is what that link is there for. We can get on a call and see how I can assist. I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead. Happy Monday, or whatever day you're watching this. And until next time, take care.